Kulmbacher Eisbock.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I have got quite a special one here today, and it is from the Kulmbacher Brewery. Now, I think I have gone through in the last, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I have gone through loads of their beer, and I think how can I put this? They have taken over. They're a bit like, I always compare them to Marston's. They've taken over quite a few breweries, and they've not disbanded the range of beers that they did. They've kept that on, and they're still producing a number of different brands under their own name, if you know what I mean. So, as I say, it's a bit like Marston's. They do the director's stuff. They do the Witchwood stuff, which, to be fair, is probably not a good analogy. The Youngers stuff as well, which is basically breweries that have been disbanded from their original premises, and now they're still brewed somewhere, possibly with the same recipes. I think Kulmbacher actually do adhere to the old recipes, because, you know, when you take a brewery over, you do inherit the recipes as well. So that's what they do, and Mernschhoff is one of them, Iku is another, and they've got their own, obviously, their own brand, just like Marston's have as well. I know I keep going back to Marston's, but it's the only analogy that I can think of that's, you know, is a good example to most people. But this is their Eisbock. Now, you've heard of Doppelbock, you've heard of Bock beer, Eisbock. This is something special. Make yourself comfortable. This could be a long explanation. What is Eisbock? Well, Eisbock is a beer that has been processed in a certain way. And I'm sure, now I had to research this, and judging by the process, which I'll get onto in a second, I think this came about by accident. The process would have been, they would have lagered the beer years ago in very cold conditions. Now, before the days of refrigeration, you would have had these in caves, certain caves, and each cave has its own very, very subtle differences between each other. You know, the air, the type of bacteria that was in there, etc., etc. But this beer actually originates from Franconia, which is a region in Bavaria where Kulmbacher come from, and its process involved partially freezing the beer. Now, if you partially freeze the beer, I don't think you do that on purpose. You know, back in the days, you know, in the 1800s or whenever this was, whenever this was discovered. But what happened was, I'm sure, well, no, this is not whatever happened was, this is my assumption was, this was discovered by accident. They were lagering this beer, which I imagine was a dark beer. They had it in a cave, but during the winter time it got really cold, or for some strange reason the atmospheric conditions were very, very cold, and the beer, or the water in the beer, partially froze. And what they did was they removed that water, which left just the alcohol and basically the stuff that wouldn't freeze. So the result of that was you had a higher ABV, the alcohol was more concentrated, you know, there was no water to water that down, but also the flavours as well, like the caramel malt, or the malts, and the hops as well. Although there is not much hop character on these type of beers, that would have been intensified, and I'd imagine that they had to do that to try and salvage all the beer that they'd put in these caves that was fermenting. And they realised that actually the flavours were so intensified that it made for a really good beer. And that's how I think Eisbock came about. But that is definitely the process. They partially freeze it, they remove some of the iced water, and that leaves, basically, as I said, some water content, yes, but it also leaves the stuff that doesn't freeze. And you're basically removing the water, or the water content of the beer, so the flavours aren't watered down. So your drinkability is lost, in my opinion. Now, this is my first Eisbock. No, it's not. I tell a lie. Schneiderweiss do Adventus, the Eisbock Adventus, and I do remember that as being fucking really nice, but really strong. Speaking of strong, the strongest beer up until a few years ago, I'll get onto this in a sec, but up until a few years ago, there was a brewery from Franconia called Schwarzbrau, and they brewed an Eisbock that was 57%, and that was the strongest beer in the world. Then along came Brewdog. Yep, that lot. I am not going to say a fucking word. I'm going to just keep it calm about Brewdog. But Brewdog says, we're going to brew a stronger beer. They actually got in trouble for it because I think this must have been about, I think it was 2012. The government said, oh, you're encouraging, encouraging antisocial behaviour and, binge drinking, etc. by brewing this strong beer. And you just think, oh, fuck off. You can buy bottles of Jack Daniels if you really want to drink that strong alcohol. But it turned into a pissing competition between these two, Schwarzbrau and Brewdog. And they eventually did a collaboration together. Now, I think recently they've just released a beer that's something like 67% alcohol or something like that. I'll just tell you here and now, I'm not going to review it. There is no fucking point. It's going to be a rant. The reason being, when you're brewing beer, this is just my opinion, of course. As I say, all these reviews are my opinion. But if you're going to brew a beer just to have the bragging rights that you've got the strongest beer, flavour goes out the window. And I imagine it tastes like a bag lady's period, like you're drinking fucking petrol or something like that. Nah, I'm not going to do it. It's pointless. That's not beer, that's just fucking publicity, in my opinion. Now, Schwarzbrau, yeah, maybe to an extent that was publicity as well, to have the bragging rights of the strongest beer in the world. But with that amount of alcohol, I don't think it's going to taste nice. I don't even want to know whether it's going to taste nice. I'm not going to spend my money on it. It's quite expensive. I ain't doing it. Fuck off, Brewdog. I'm not having it. And relax, see, fucking Brewdog. Mention the fucking word Brewdog and that's it. Anyway, I'm calm. Let's get on to the beer. Right, Kulmbacher Eisbock. It is. The ABV is 9.2%. And this is a 330ml bottle. Thank fuck for that. I've got to be up for work in the morning. But it's a strong beer, and if you look at the label, they do make a big thing about the ice. You can see that. And yeah. Now, do you know what? It's really weird. This is just, completely off the scale. But my missus last night was showing me droplets of water under a microscope, and they are. You know how you see snowflakes and this type of shape. That's what they're like, and I'd never seen that before. That was really fascinating. So yeah, boring, I know, for some, but that's the sort of trivia that I get off on. Absolutely fucking useless. It will bore the shit out of everyone. So there you go. Let's get it in the glass. Let's see what's going on. Now I'm using a St Bernardus glass. It's supposed to be drunk in a glass that's similar to this, but I don't have the style. It's that broad tulip style. I don't have one, so that's going to have to do. And to be honest, I've drank quadruples out of that before, and they've tasted okay. There is the cap, the Kulmbacher cap. I didn't do a history of the brewery. If you want a history of the brewery, look at the Mernschhoff reviews that I've put up, or the Kulmbacher, or the Echo. It'll be in there somewhere. I really don't want to go over it. I've reviewed so many of their beers. I just sounded like a parrot. Now, like the Aventus, the Schneider Weiss Aventus, not Adventus, twat, the head will not last long at all. Same with a lot of quadruples as well, and it will just die. That's a standard. I'm not going to moan about that, because when you've got that amount of alcohol in, the foam just doesn't last. There's a chemical reaction that happens there. The CO2 just gets evaporated by the alcohol, and that's it. On the nose. Oh yeah, that does smell lovely. There is strong caramel and a little bit of toffee malt on that as well. It does smell really nice. Now, I've just tried the Robinson's Old Tom, which is an old ale with ginger mixed through it, and that was quite nice. This, I imagine, is even going to be even nicer, because this conforms to the Reinheitsgebot. There is no sugar in here. As I just mentioned, the Old Tom, that had some, I think it was invert sugar that they put in it, and it gave it a sweetness to it. I think the sweetness that's going to be in this is coming from the malt, but it does remind me of a Doppelbock. It's all about the malt. It's just caramel malt, toffee malt, and a little hint of ethanol or spirit alcohol, whatever you want to call it. It smells nice. It's intriguing. It looks like a fucking can of Coke. I've just pulled a can of Coke in there. Believe me, this is going to be like no can of Coke you've ever tasted. Let's get it down the hatch. Prost, as they say in Germany. Oh, that's lovely. That is lovely. That burning sensation on the way down. Not burning, warming sensation. Get it right. Oh, that's really nice. That is like a Doppelbock on steroids, which effectively it is. This is based on a Doppelbock. Now, I tried the Mönchhoff Doppelbock and I was really impressed by that. And it's brewed by the same company, so maybe they're using the same yeast strain, but this is absolutely gorgeous. Oh, that's lovely. Caramel, toffee malt, but a lot of dried fruit on that as well. Dark fruit, raisins, dates, that type of thing. Oh, it's lovely. It's absolute, and the aftertaste as well. That is really nice. That is like a proper that is like a proper old ale. That is, but cleaner, if you can imagine that. And as I say, it reminds me of a Doppelbock, but with the flavours intensified, because that's basically what they've done. And I imagine they have increased the viscosity of it as well, because if you sort of swirl that around the glass, you get a certain type of lacing. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on this camera, but can you see the way that is clinging to the glass? You've got like a film that's coating that. I'm not sure whether you can see that on the camera, but that's what happens. You get that a hell of a lot on Belgian doubles. And yep, I agree, a lot of it has got to do with the sugar content on Belgian doubles and on their quadruples as well. But this conforms to the Reinheitsgebot, so there's no sugar in this, well, no artificially or added sugar in this. The only sugar you will get in this is coming from the malted barley. But you do get that type of lacing that just sticks to the glass, where you've got that high alcohol content and the sugar from the barley malt. Well, what's left of it, basically, because the yeast will have devoured most of it. Oh, it's lovely. Oh, there's even chocolatey type notes on this as well. It's lovely. It's absolutely gorgeous. I really do like it. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Doppelbocks anyway, but I think this takes it to another level. This gives it an intensity that you just don't get from Doppelbocks. This is definitely one to be savoured as well, and I can see why they put it in 330ml bottles. You do not want to be drinking a fucking 500ml bottle of 9.2% beer. You will get Belgian legs. Really nice. That is absolutely gorgeous. And in the winter, this is definitely a winter drink. And the aftertaste just lasts forever. It just goes on and on. Intense dried fruit, big toffee malt, caramel malt, and there is a spirit alcohol seam running through it. It's not as intense as I thought it was going to be, but you do get the warming as it goes down, and it's really nice. But it's one to be savoured. You do not want to gulp this down at a rate of knots. It is not a lager. It's really nice. I'm saying, do you know what I was just thinking? I'm saying that you don't want to put this in a 500ml bottle, but Schneider Weiss do actually, and yeah, I really like that. That was really nice. This isn't as carbonated as the Schneider Weiss stuff. That was really carbonated. I did notice that, but this is just perfect. It goes down really nice. It's lovely. That's really good. So what's the verdict on Kulmbacher Eisbock? Yeah, I like this. It may not be to everyone's taste. There's very intense flavours. If you like IPAs, American style IPAs or American style pale ales, walk away now, because there is no hop character in this at all. This is all about the malt. It's about the dried fruit, a little touch of alcohol, but that's what it is, and it's intense flavours. And it's really nice. So if you're a fan of Belgian doubles, if you like British old ale, and if you like, I would say to an extent, quadruples, it hasn't got the intense sweetness of a quadruple. The only sweetness you get in here, because it conforms to the Reinheitsgebot, is coming from the malt. Well, maybe a little bit from the yeast as well, but it's absolutely gorgeous. It really is. I'm going to give that 10 out of 10. I have to, because it's lovely. I imagine if you was eating cheese, that's just the perfect accompaniment to it. Strong cheese, like a strong cheddar or a Stilton or something like that. That would go really nicely. No complaints whatsoever. 10 out of 10. Another winner from Bavaria. And remember, beer is working class champagne.